Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with the story in which the OP sued the HOA and won, but the HOA board didn't like it and started trying to make his life miserable. HOA created rules, enforcing them on us, allow everyone else, including board members, to break these rules. Our HOA has an overflow parking lot that has no markings but is designated as a visitor parking lot on our HOA website. We have 2 parking spaces in front of our townhouse but own 3 cars. We used to park the 3rd car in the visitor parking lot. The visitor parking lot has never reached close to full capacity. There are 30 spots there, and most I've seen parked there at once was 15 cars, normal's 5 cars. Our HOA reached out and told us this was against the bylaws and that we're specifically not allowed to permanently park a vehicle in the visitor parking lot. The specific bylaws they claim we violated are effectively nuisance to your neighbor bylaws. They read as follows. Every member shall have a right for use of and access to the common areas and parking areas which are mapped on page 14 of the covenants. Every member retains the right to extend these rights for any use to tenant, guest, or other party as may be permitted under the terms of these covenants. I contested the HOA's right to restrict my parking a 3rd car there and do not believe the covenants, word for word above, prohibit this. The bylaws require a hearing over matters like this, and the HOA held a hearing, board members, manager, and myself, for this issue. At the beginning of the hearing, they presented a list of rules that the board had voted on and adopted. These rules specifically stated that no member, tenant, guest, or other shall park a vehicle in visitor parking on a permanent or long-term basis. They drafted these rules based on their covenants, and our bylaws do allow new rules to be implemented provided they're not in contradiction to the covenants and are voted on by a majority of board members, meaning they're allowed to create rules and may have done so correctly. I now pay to park the 3rd car in storage. Our HOA consists of 48 townhouses. There are 5 other units that permanently park their vehicles in visitor parking. They parked those vehicles there before we got a 3rd car. They parked those vehicles there during the hearing, which was about a 60-day process. They parked those vehicles there now. The hearing was about 8 months ago. We've owned the 3rd car for about 1 year. We parked in the visitor parking for about 2 months before we got the notice that led to the hearing. One of the board members' tenants got a 3rd car about 3 months ago. They parked that car in the visitor parking spaces. That 3rd car has not moved since they bought it 3 months ago. They were out inflating the tires about a month ago, which is how I found out who that car belonged to. We reported every single one of the cars who permanently parks there to the HOA, and nothing has been done. We made these reports after our first notice and before the hearing. They are literally targeting only us. They're allowing everyone else, including board members, to blatantly break these rules and are only targeting us. They do not like us. We sued the HOA after they damaged our unit during a fall cleanup about 2 years ago. They cut a tree limb that fell and shattered a window in our unit. They refused to repair it, said it was our responsibility. We paid to repair it and sued them for the $900 repair bill. They hired an attorney and lost. They were ordered to pay our repair bill and attorney fees. All in all, about $8,000 in total cost to the HOA because they refused to pay $900, so they clearly are out to get us after that fiasco. And our second story. Kids fall. I worked retail for 5+ years at a large consumer electronics company that I shall refer to as Pear for convenience. We sold P-phones, P-pads, and P-books on the floor to customers. Due to the popularity of the products and the location of our store in a busy mall, the floor can get quite packed during the day with people going in and out. To add fuel to the fire, the store has a set of low wooden tables installed at the rear that are equipped with little black beanbag chairs and P-pads so that kids can come in and get addicted to games on the P-pads while their parents did their shopping and troubleshooting. Some parents even would intentionally drop off their kids in the store and go off shopping on their own, as if we're a daycare. Seating in the store is limited, so sometimes parents would sit on a set of couches directly outside while their kids were playing inside. If we can't locate the parent, we would call security and they'd have to make an announcement in the mall that there were unsupervised children left at the store and the parents are required to pick them up immediately. Story. On a busy Sunday, the store was relatively short-handed at noon. A few guys called in sick and another few were on lunch, and I was on the floor with my store manager. Two of my colleagues were deep into their sales conversations with customers, and it leaves me open to float on the floor and answer other customer questions. I was just greeting somebody at the door when a little kid holding an ice cream cone, 5 or 6 years old, sprints full speed into the store and guns it to the back where the kids' table was. As he runs by, I try to call out to him and ask him to slow down, but he didn't seem to care about anything happening around him. When he got to the kids' table, he puts down his ice cream cone and picks up a P-pad and tries to unlock it. The P-pad shows the pair logo and is turning on, but the kid doesn't seem to get this and starts screaming, "It's not working!" He then gets up, proceeds to knock over his ice cream cone on the table, making a huge mess, and runs up the store to my colleague who's near the front of the store, currently helping another customer, and barges into the conversation and just screams at my colleague, "It's not working!" I go over to help my colleague, who's obviously annoyed and flustered, and I ask the kid where his parents are. He points to a woman on the couch outside, and I said, "Is that your mom?" He nods, and I tell him, "If you run around the store like that, you'll get hurt. I'll get the P-pad working for you in a second if you just go back to the table and wait for—" Before I could finish my sentence, the kid starts bolting down the hallway again and misses a few customers while I walk out to the bench outside to talk to the mom. I said to her, "Sorry, ma'am, is that your son?" She said, "Yes, it is," looking relatively smug and nonchalant about the whole thing. I told her that she can't leave her kid in the store alone and that he's probably going to get hurt running up and down the aisle. The lady looks like she's getting upset and says, "Are you kidding me? That's what they do. Kids run." At this point, I turn around and see the kid salvaging his ice cream from the table and splatters it all over his hands. He starts to run blindly from table to table, wiping the ice cream on the table legs and the devices as if finger painting. He finds renewed joy in this and seems to have lost interest in the P-pad already. Other customers were noticing the kid and trying to ignore or avoid him altogether, since he was a huge mess and being a nuisance. My manager finally notices from the back of the store and radios in, "What the heck is going on?" I told him the situation and the conversation with the mom and saw him look over at her, who returned a glare to my manager as if we wronged her. He paused for a second, then looked at the boy and said, "Just help other customers. I'll deal with it." So I came back into the store and watched as my manager slowly walked towards the boy who stood at the back left table. He was dangling a P-pad precariously off the side of the table by its security cord with a giant happy face drawn on the screen with ice cream, which had a bunch of expensive P-Book Pros on it, and begins to sprint across the store to get them. As he ran, I saw my manager, who was now positioned between the tables where the kid was traveling between, take a soft but dexterous step into the path of the kid and planted his feet firmly on the ground. My manager's eyes were still glued to his P-pad as if he was reading something important. The kid has his face turned the other way as he ran, so he didn't see the new obstacle that was in front of him. Then I witnessed, as if in slow motion, the kid turning his head back around and his eyes widen as he pelted full speed into the leg of my manager. The impact created an uncannily loud wham sound and sends the kid falling backwards. His remaining ice cream cone flew through the air, landing an aisle over. As the kid fell back, his legs soften and his head narrowly misses a table leg not more than 3 inches away. He hits the ground with an audible thud. Everybody's caught by surprise by the sounds of the impact and looked over. There was about 3 to 4 seconds of pure awkward silence in the store, followed by heavy, sniffled breathing and loud crying coming from the kid. The mom, who just then realized that her kid was the one crying, came running into the store. She had a look of shock on her face and looked around the store in disbelief before picking the kid up. The kid couldn't stop crying, and the mom carried him out of the store without saying a single word or looking back at us. I walked over to my manager and asked him if he thought the kid was okay. He looked at me, shrugged, and said, "Kids fall." And our next story. Sold my house since my roommates thought I was ripping them off. I have a massive mortgage on a house in HCOL City. I have 4 roommates. I have the basement suite, and the upstairs bedrooms are rented to 1 couple and 2 single people. They know I own the house, and all of them were recommended to me by friends or family. I still required a lease agreement and security deposit, as well as first and last month's rent. I just was willing to rent to them at below market rate because I didn't have to advertise or arrange for a property manager. Between the 4 of them, I collect enough to cover the mortgage and utilities with a little left over. I save my money and use it to pay for major repairs and maintenance. I will be starting a new job in a different city in the new year. I knew about this back in late October. I offered the couple an opportunity to take over the basement suite in the new year for a little bit more money. They would get a massive bedroom upgrade and a private living room, bathroom, and kitchen. They agreed and let me know they were planning on moving out in 1 year, so they'd be willing to sign a 1-year lease. I asked the two singles if either of them wanted to take the master bedroom that would be empty. They both declined, but asked if they could turn it into a home office for them. I said sure, but they'd have to cover the rent for the room. They think I'm being unreasonable. Since I'll be making more money off the couple, they think I should keep their rent the same and let them have the room for free. I offered it to them at 80% of what I was getting before. They called me a selfish a-hole for taking all their money. Even if they took the deal, they'd still be paying less than market value for a single room in our city. It turned into a huge fight with the people who referred them to me, calling me a greedy a-hole for trying to suck money out of their friends. I don't need to deal with any of this. I found a property investor who is willing to buy my house and honor my current leases, including the new one for the couple. Unfortunately for the other two renters, their leases are up in February, and I imagine that the rents will be going up a fair bit. But that isn't my problem anymore. So now everyone they know are angry with me because these two people will most likely have to move into a crappier living situation. I feel bad because if I wasn't moving, I would stay and deal with it, but it's easier to just walk away. And our last story. Neighbor will burn or bulldoze any fence. I've had a parcel of land for a long time. There have been contentious survey issues with a neighbor. These were, I thought, put to rest when I got a successful survey clearly setting out the boundary. The neighbor now claims an easement comprising over half of my property. The cap on easement claim of land in Nova Scotia is 20% as per the Land Registration Act, but he's claiming he has used the land for 50 years continuous with his great-grandfather. He is not. The claimed area was only recently cleared by him. He's now putting up, names easement, signs on my land. I want to build a fence, but the neighbor has made sure to put around that he will go out in a ski mask and burn or bulldoze any fence I put up. He has access to construction equipment. The police say it's a civil matter until he does something. Other fences in the area have been burned and bulldozed. The person doesn't have enough money to take me to court and would lose on the facts anyway. Edit. So I set up cameras with night vision, pointed at the new fence covertly. When he destroyed it, I took the footage to the police the next day. He ended up reimbursing the fence he destroyed and got a restraining order for trespassing on my property. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.